Good afternoon, friends in Malawi. Hope you're having a lovely day back home. My name is Natasha. I am the SMP Communications and Engagement Officer here in Scotland. However, I'm originally from Malawi in a little town called Blantyre. This meeting is going to be recorded and the recording will go online later on this evening or tomorrow for anyone that wants to view it. We take your continuing participation in this meeting as you're consenting to being part of the recording. If taking part online, please would you ensure that you appear under the name in which you registered and not the device you are using. Please feel free or feel welcome to introduce yourself in the chat and share your organization and or your email address if you do wish to. Please note that the chat log will be added online when messages sent to everyone in the meeting will be shared. If you send any direct messages in the chat, these are not shared, so please make a note of this yourself. To everyone taking part online, would ask you to remain muted, please, until invited to speak during the Q&A session. If possible, please will you also switch your video on when speaking so that the audio-visual system can focus on you. You're welcome to live tweet during the meeting. The social media handles will be shown on the chat in a minute or in a moment. We have around 60 minutes together, including the time for the Q&A discussion today. So please feel welcome to add them to the chat box or raise your virtual hand when we open up the floor for the questions. I'll now hand over to our CEO, Stuart Brown.
Thanks very much, Natasha, and a very warm welcome to everybody. The Scotland-Malawi Partnership is a membership network which exists to connect, support, and represent the many individuals and organisations with two-way dignified people-to-people links, two-way benefit, two-way learning. Our Malawi-based sister organisation, the Malawi-Scotland Partnership, with whom we collaborate closely, has co-designed and is co-hosting this meeting. They coordinate their members in Malawi and we coordinate our members here, seeking to facilitate and bring people together. We are funded by, but independent of, the Scottish Government. A forthcoming event, which I know will be of interest to many, is on November the 2nd, 10 AM till 1:30, all online, a major conference on volunteering and global citizenship, hosted by the McConnell International Foundation in partnership with the Scottish Government. This event will produce a set of guidelines on international volunteering, and we'll be sharing more information on that on our website and across our social media platforms in due course. School partnerships are a vital and vibrant part of the two-way links between Scotland and Malawi, and as well as schools with deep roots, there are also new shoots and buds as new schools form and blossom in their partnerships. New to our small SMP staff team is our new Youth and Schools lead, Ian Mitchell, also known as Mitch. You may know Mitch well from his involvement with the Beath Malawi Partnership and engagement during some of his 30 years teaching with Malawi. Mitch has been busy getting to know our colleagues at MASP, has already made several school visits, and we count ourselves lucky to have Mitch amongst us. Mitch, over to you.
I won't make the classic mistake of starting to talk before I've made sure I'm off mute, I should say. Thanks, Stuart. Yes, for those who don't know me, and I'm seeing familiar faces, I've seen Gift and Emma, and I've seen Richard and that, we've met plenty of times before. I retired in the summer after teaching physics for 30 years in 2 schools and 5, and I'm still involved with the Beath Malawi Partnership, which has now been running for the best part of 10 years. Our first partnership kind of fell through, but we now have a strong partnership, okay, with 2 schools, Mapanga Primary School in the Malanji area and the Jali Primary School in the Cholo area, and I was fortunate to be part of the first school visit there in 2016. I returned in 2018 with another school visit, and then I returned in 2019 with some colleagues. COVID killed off our planned trip in 2021, but we do hope to take a group back in June 2025. I held a meeting on Tuesday evening at the school there and there were 16 youngsters represented with their parents. So certainly very hopeful that that meeting will actually go ahead. Ourselves, Mapanga and Njali, we've worked together on social and educational matters, and it was a very strong partnership that saw us through COVID, with being able to communicate our concerns, our hopes, our wishes for the future, and also trying to sort out some of the problems that each of us had at the time. The Beat Malawi partnership actually sponsors scholarship learners from our 2 partner schools into secondary education, and that's helped particularly girls to stay in education for a bit longer. We also support 3 deaf pupils at a special school. When we visited in Njali in 2018, we were and it was indicated this girl was deaf. She came to school every day, but couldn't actually access education. And then we found out her brother was deaf, and so was one of her cousins. So being able to support them to a special school. So these are sort of some of the activities that we've been involved in developing sort of school materials between us, although the difference in technology is vast. We've also just recently enrolled 2 Malawian sisters at the school. Their mother came across to work in Dunfermline. They were struggling to actually get into a school in Fife, and through our partnership, Stevie Ross, the head teacher, said we'll take them, no problem. So they are now very much part of our partnership as well. And obviously I see my role now, as developing school partnerships, helping youth groups to cement and develop with schools in Malawi and groups in Malawi. I can't say I'm aware of all the issues. I think there are people in this meeting who have got more experience than I have in that, but I'm certainly aware of the issues that our partner schools have. And I want to help develop meaningful partnerships and links between the 2 countries. I'm hoping to develop some new sort of educational materials, if we can, on global citizenship, as we desire to facilitate the idea of global solidarity. And I'm certainly open to any suggestions, comments. My email is on one of the slides here for any future events, and that would include the Youth in Schools Festival, which will be around March 2024. I think that's probably enough from myself as to who I am and what I am. If anybody's needing any help, please do not hesitate to contact me, or if they think I can help, or even just want to visit, please do contact. So with partnerships and supporting young people in mind, I'm actually going to call on our first presenter this evening. Matemwe, in our colleague group in MASP, has arranged for Stephen Sinyangwe from Beehive School, to give a presentation from the Malawian side. So, Matemwe, Stephen, over to yourself.
Hello, everyone. I am Stephen Sinyangwe. I am the head teacher at Beehive School here in Malawi. We partnered with one of the schools in Scotland, and we've had a good experience with them. Though we kind of lost contact with them, but we believe that everything will be sorted out soon. Through today's meeting, as I was invited, I'm honored to say. So I believe that we need to understand that it is through diplomatic relations of mutual trust and discipline that we can, that 2 countries such as Malawi and Scotland can develop lasting friendly relationships. As you may agree that in this age of globalization, a country on its own can only do so much. That applies as well to schools. So we need to understand what is happening on the other side of the world, just like you need to understand some of the things that we as Malawians are going through. And only through cooperation can we effectively handle the ever-increasing global issues. Just to share a few of these issues, Malawi has been facing some of the well-known problems such as cholera outbreaks and Right now, we've just had the second phase of the polio vaccine. Of course, the health practitioners came to our school today to administer some of that. So we also thank the government of Scotland for giving out some of that help. And we believe that we are not alone, because we know that you guys are out there watching out for us. And from this, I believe that we must, if our relationships are to thrive, then we must pursue peace and cooperation like we've always done. And we must advocate for equality, openness and inclusiveness, as well as clearly highlighting the benefits for all the partners involved. Just like Mitch mentioned, that for some schools, it is a problem with technology. And on our part too, we faced that when we were starting the partnership with the school we were given. It took us time to organize meetings with them because of poor connections this side, and for our friends, they're differing in academic calendars. When our friends are on holiday, we're at school, which became a problem. But little by little, things are working out. Yes, thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you.
Stephen, Stephen, can I just ask, when you're talking about difficulty in communication, was it only through WhatsApp? Was that the only way you could communicate, or were you able to communicate through email?
We first of all set up a WhatsApp platform, which we were using to communicate, because we saw that sometimes for the emails on our side, we took sometimes longer to check our emails, which was our fault, of course. But when it came to WhatsApp, I feel like our friends on that side had a problem too, because some messages could take weeks before they could reply. So we felt like, but when it comes to WhatsApp, that's the best platform we could use here in Malawi, because most people are very familiar with that. Zoom conferencing and Google Teams are coming in now, but for WhatsApp is the best that we could use, and we've been using that.
Yeah, because just for other people in the meets here, that's the only way we can really communicate. The two partner schools I mentioned earlier, one has no electrical energy at all, and the other one has a very old computer, which is used for staff work, but there's no email address that we can send information to. So yeah, I can appreciate your problems.
Thank you so much.
Can I ask if there's anybody else with any questions for Stephen? Richard?
Stephen, sorry, I must have missed this, but I just wonder whereabouts is your school in Malawi?
So we are located in Mzuzu. That is one of the cities here in Malawi. So we are in Mzuzu in area 2.
Okay, to the north.
Yes, in the north.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
Does anybody? Temi or Ruth, or can I maybe just ask somebody else from MAS, maybe just to give a brief outline of some of the work you've done recently in looking at partnerships from the Malawian side? Oh, sorry, Emma, didn't see your hand up. Apologies. Emma, do you just want to comment on that?
Yes. Stephen, thank you for giving us that introduction. I heard you, are you in Mzuzu, and are you linked to Beehive just outside Blantyre? Or are you two different organisations?
The Blantyre Beehive is a different organisation.
Right.
Our Beehive was it is a private institute, so we are totally different.
Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks for the clarification.
No, thanks, Emma. But with them, Ruth, can I maybe just call it possible to ask you just to give a very brief sort of comment about the work that MASP are doing in Malawi to foster partnerships?
Thank you. So sorry, I joined a little bit late. Indeed, my last quarter. I don't know. Are you clear? Are you able to hear me?
I can hear you, Stella. Welcome.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Indeed, Malawi Cotton Partnership, we are doing a number of things as far as school partnerships is concerned. We have been busy with identifying the schools that are active in the school partnerships. We are also working. We are trying to come up with a database on that. We are also training the schools that are in partnership using the school partnership guide. You are probably aware of the school partnership guide. Further to that, we are saying what is quality school partnerships. So using the guide, we are outlining some of the things that were outlined in the guide. For example, we need schools that have committees in place. We need schools that are in partnerships to have a dedicated email address. It may sound simple, but we have learned that in some of the school partnerships, if a coordinator for the school partnership leave, he goes away with the whole school partnership. We are also saying, yes, school partnership is there. What kind of discussions are the schools supposed to be engaged in? We are further saying, okay, the schools are discussing, they are meeting, and in most cases, they also ask each other, maybe in terms of donations. It's a good thing, but we are saying, okay, let's be transparent and accountable to the things that we are getting from our colleagues from Scotland. Of course, at the same time, we are discouraging it. Further to that, those in Malawi, you are aware the kind of environment most of the schools are in, especially in terms of infrastructure, learning and teaching materials. We don't have to some extent. So we are saying, okay, when we link schools to be in partnership, what is it the first thing that our schools in Malawi will start thinking? They will start thinking, okay, let's ask our partner to give us something. So what we've done is we are saying we have lots and lots of Scottish organizations. For example, Computers for Enhanced Education. We have Classroom for Malawi. Just for an example, we have Sports Leadership. So what we are doing is, for example, on Monday I had a meeting with CEO of Computer for Enhanced Education. We have agreed that we should create synergy in that is where they are going to have to distribute computers. That's where we'll be going, because we take advantage of the network that comes along with the computers. Because what they do is when they go to a new school, they distribute the computers. They also install network gadgets so that the school has the network. Unlike before, the schools that we've been working with, they were also struggling to have network. So that is a plus. So if they have installed the computers, we come in and teach the schools on school partnership guide, and also to identify their partners, their school partner. Then it will be easier for us. It means we have resolved the digital skills, as well as we have continuous access to internet. We are also discussing further with the other Scottish organization to see if we can go and create synergies. Let me stop there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stella. Appreciate it for that. We're going to move on now to our second presentation this evening. George Watson's College in Edinburgh have an established partnership which works very well. And our next presentation will actually come from Richard Travers, who is a deputy head teacher at George Watson's College. So Richard, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mitch. I'm going to try and share my screen if that, see if I can get that to work. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I hope you can see that. Otherwise, I'm just gonna, but I'm gonna kind of carry on talking, whatever. So I guess I kind of frame this in a sort of a journey, because I think it has been a journey for us, and it's kind of one that we're still on, and it's one that's so exciting, and still remains exciting, and I think it's one that's brought an almost unquantifiable benefit to some of our kids, and I hope we've had a similar sort of experience. I hope our, you know, the partner schools that we've partnered with, particularly MCV and Bolero Palms, feel the same way. But there's no doubt, there's no doubt that it's been a great journey for us so far. But I'm going to go right back to the beginning, and I think this is where I remember David Hope Jones saying the same thing, that a lot of people had a personal connection with Malawi, and that's how it happened for us. So essentially, I was playing for a really bad football team while I was at St Andrews University, and typically we'd have a player not turn up or two players not turn up, and a guy came along and said, oh, he'd played a game, and he was a medic studying at St Andrews, and he was from Malawi, and he played a game, but he was willing to kind of turn out for us. He was playing on the next pitch, and so that action kind of connected us bizarrely, and in a strange way, it's kind of led to all this work, really. So after the game, we went for a drink and we got chatting, and he was so, I was really interested about him, and he was so enthusiastic, this guy Godfrey. He was about Malawi, that I just remember thinking, I must go, I must go there. It just sounds great, and I knew nothing about it at that time, but Malawian students had always had a connection with St Andrews, studying medicine there. Well, certainly it dates way back to the 80s, way back, although it says 2008 on the website. So that was my kind of first interaction with Malawi, and it kind of stuck with me. So in 1996, I went there for the first time, and I just went there as a tourist. And then I guess much later than that, 2011, Sally Ray, my colleague, who's on the board of the Scotland Malawi Partnership, she and I were thinking about running a school trip, and we were talking about a destination. And I said, well, look, what about Malawi? There was a lot about Malawi in the news. Scotland had got this connection, and I just thought, you know, this would tap into a kind of zeitgeist that at the time that was around at the time. So she and Jenny set off and went on a kind of recce visit, a potential destination, to see if it would work as a potential destination. And we were based primarily in, we were focusing primarily in southern Malawi. And after that, a year later than that, we ran our first trip there, 28 staff, and Lilongwe, Blantyre, the lake, and the focus was sport, trek on Malanje, safari, and then a bit of charity work. And that hasn't changed, although the attributes within that have changed quite a bit. So it was really great. We had a really great time, and we came back and we thought, we'll see if we can go back every couple of years. And the demand from the pupils was such that actually very quickly this became an annual trip. And very quickly it grew from taking 24 pupils to now we've scaled it up. So we take double the amount that we took initially. So we now take annually, we run a school trip annually for 44 pupils, and we take 53. There's 53 of us go each year. 44 of those are pupils that have come through, and the spin-off of that is quite interesting. So what happened as a result of that was then there was all this kind of good work, and we decided to sort of put that into a more formal setting. We set up something called the Watson's Malawi Partnership, which was slightly unoriginal, kind of borrowing off the Scotland Malawi Partnership, really. But within that, we focused on several work streams, and I'll talk about those in a second. But the other thing that's important is in 2020 that became a kind of SKIO in its own right. So, and that was part of that was to make it more straightforward to raise money to work with NGO organisations over in Malawi. So that kind of charitable element became a bit more straightforward. So it just focused all our efforts. And the focus is education of that. So the focus is generally on education projects, but there are several work streams within that. So it's evolved, and I want to just say this. I mean, I've put these two slides on because I think that they kind of represent our journey, really. So at one point, and I think this was partly we were kind of pushed into it, or maybe we thought this is what we were supposed to do, and maybe some of the people we worked with initially in Malawi thought that this was what we wanted to do. We ended up doing sort of a task that now I'm quite embarrassed about, and I thumbed hard about showing this slide. But we talked about, we ended up doing things that painting classrooms and kind of stuff that actually Malawians were well able to do for themselves, and we've moved completely away from that. And that was what the photograph on the top left there, if you can see that. I've loved this picture on the right. We support a couple of Malawian netball teams, and we play a game of netball in Lilongwe. And I managed to snap this picture of the Malawian teams who just played our girls, and that was them taking a selfie together, and they were just having such a great time. And that's what I think this is just so powerful, that seeing these kids with other kids kind of making it work. Yeah, and we've tried to get this also in the curriculum. So we've got an enrichment class for S5 and S6 that works through on our connections. We have an afternoon of activities, and Emma's been brilliant at that, and Gift as well, where we look at development generally, I guess, and then more focused on the trip as well. And then we've also got pupil representation on the board and in the work streams of the Scotland-Malawi partnership. In terms of how it's evolved, we've moved away to have kind of joint projects and lessons with MCV in the secondary school down in Mangochi near the lake. A big focus, and in all the feedbacks, I think this will be our third year of dialogues with SECA, maybe our fourth actually. That has been absolutely brilliant. So I'd recommend anyone who's listening, is thinking of organising a school partnership or a school visit, that really needs to be a feature of your work. It was transformational in making us think again about how partnership might work, but also it was transformational in challenging the ideas of some of the kids that had gone on the trip in a really positive way. And then some of the things I'm kind of particularly pleased about, I guess, or think that work really well. We've had this ongoing commitment to Balera Palm School, which is down in Mangochi, and a lot of our kids do some very useful things down there, I think, particularly paired reading with junior primary school pupils. And then more recently, we've tried to take a bit of our environmental responsibility quite seriously. Malawi's affected by climate change, as we all are, but potentially it's going to hit them harder. We've set up projects to try and mitigate the CO2 that we obviously emit in taking 44 kids over to Malawi. So we've got a project in place in Malanje that looks at kind of reforestation. So and we're looking to try and quantify that, so we can at least make a sort of commitment to being CO2 neutral. I mentioned earlier we've got in our sports and culture kind of work stream, we've had long-standing support for a couple of football teams at Scores in Lilongwe and also Belinda Queens, and we've established 2 netball courts. We've established 1 netball court, and we're currently looking at another court in the outskirts of Lilongwe. We've also trying to support the vocational skills centre at STECA and also MCV. And I think, talking about evolution, I think our relationships become more nuanced. I think we had a very simplistic idea at the start, and we've realised that needed to shift. And actually, it has shifted to become a much more nuanced sort of relationship in terms of our relationship with our schools, in terms of what we do. And I think it's far better for it. But that's still that kind of debate. I think we're kind of is still ongoing. So that's so that's the spin-off. That's the Skio charity, and we've got a nice website there. And these are our work streams. So we've got work streams in health, sport, culture, environment. We have a group focused on fundraising that fundraises for for some of our NGO partners in Malawi. And then we have this kind of activities one, which is the sort of school-based end of it, where kids learn about Malawi, I guess. And have also done some really nice things. We were talking about WhatsApp earlier. We had, during COVID, we had a trip all set to go, and the kids were so disappointed that they couldn't go. But we managed to exchange WhatsApp videos between MCV, so our kids, and the pupils at MCV as well. And yeah, we always play a game of football and usually get beaten, and we well, always get beaten, and then we always play some netball out there as well, and that's the girls up at the long way, in the courts just behind them. I should have got a picture of that. I've talked about environment, so yeah, we're quite keen to try and make the trip carbon neutral. We've seen big changes certainly in Malawi with deforestation, and I think that's a kind of a good education, or it's been really educational seeing that, but also trying to think about how we might help to try and reverse some of those efforts, working with the Malawi Conservation Trust, particularly in Malawi, and also trees in Zomba. And then some nice pictures. So when I said nuance, I think also it's really important for our pupils to see the range of schools in Malawi. So we've often visited Saints in Blantyre, which I always say, it's got a better swimming pool than we've got, certainly, as an independent school. And then also there's some of our kids there just listening to pupils read in English at Blair Palm School. So a kind of useful activity, and one that's kind of, I think, is beneficial to the kids there, and certainly in terms of, one of the things we wrestle with is impact, but I think just anecdotally looking at the literacy levels round about the school and round about the lake there, I think they've improved since we've been letting kids read, because taking a whole team in and allowing teachers time to do other things has been really useful. And then we've also worked with Charities Clinic up in the Long Way. We've supported the purchase of medical equipment, so vehicle screening program particularly. We've been in, we've purchased a bit of kit for charity that's allowed her to implement that program. And we've also our girls have worked with Days for Girls and delivered packs and also lessons with some primary school, top-end primary school kids on reusable sanitary products to try and keep kids in school. And I think I've covered all that. Yeah, so I guess what we've also done is, and I guess this is interesting and unique, is that this has become much bigger than just the school. So the kind of the school community is involved. So Watsonian communities have been involved. We've had collaborations with St Columba's. We've got a collaboration with Smalls for All, which is a SKIO. We've reached out to local sports teams and societies that to enable us to support our Scores and Belinda Queens. Okay, I think that's us. So I hope that gives you a kind of overview of where we are. Some things I didn't really talk about, but I think in terms of the impact that we've had, or the impact that Malawi's had on our pupils' lives, I think it's led to a really transformational change in some of our kids, and actually it's also led to kids continuing their engagement beyond leaving school. So typically we're taking our 5th and 6th year pupils, our top end school leavers, and some of those pupils have gone on to do other things at university. So been involved in Malawi groups at university, and they've also got one pupil in particular who's sitting on the board of the SOCO Trust now, as an engaged young university student, just wanting to keep that involvement there. Okay, I can feel I'm rambling, so I'm going to stop now, but I'm really delighted to talk about Malawi and ask and have questions if people have got them for me.
Many thanks for that, Richard. Okay, very informative. Emma, was that your hand up again?
Yes, it is. And thanks very much for mentioning the dialogue groups. And we're very grateful to Watsons as well for taking part in our dialogue groups and helping us, helping them evolve. I think one of the things I really want to stress as a result of Richard's presentation there is that we absolutely have to always think about not just the impact that we make in Malawi, but also the impact that Malawi makes on young people. And I think that's one of the really important, as Richard said, transformational effects of getting involved in our critical dialogue groups. And we were lucky enough to get, when the Scottish Government did its small grants, we got an international, that we got a feasibility study grant. I've put a link into that report and I really would love people to read it, because I think what's significant is that the impact on the young Scots goes beyond just thinking about Malawi. It's actually, in my view, real solidarity, real global citizenship. And you can see in that report how young people behave towards other poverty experienced young people in Scotland when they come back, that understanding of structural inequality, what causes inequality. You know, it's not just people who are lazy and can't pull the socks up, that they're really getting a much more nuanced, as Richard said, understanding of inequalities. In addition, they're also learning about the impact that we're making in Malawi in terms of climate change. So I think that's a really big shock for a lot of the young people that take part in the critical dialogues, of really understanding that, but also massively understanding gender inequality. Some of the discussions around sexual initiation practices that go on really open young Scots' eyes into the idea that actually gender inequality is not just a glass ceiling, and that we need to all get together in solidarity to bring about change in the world. So I think these are very, very important impacts on our young people from going to Malawi. And as I say, Richard's young people, among with also Glenifer School from Paisley, they all took part in the research in that report, and I think it's fascinating. You know, one guy said he was able to talk and admit that he was bisexual after taking part in the critical dialogue groups. So I think this is a really important way to think about our relationship, not just, oh, we've given some money to a classroom, but actually we've got young people's minds coming together, and the solidarity that's built through that is really powerful. Sorry, I'll stop now.
No, thanks for the contribution, Emma. Okay, does anybody else got any questions for Richard? I think probably the one I would take away for that, Richard, is evolution. Oh, Archie. Is that your hand up, Archie?
Yes, I was just forgetting your rule, Ian, to make sure your microphone was unmuted before speaking. But yeah, Richard, we've had an ongoing partnership on a very small scale. We've had 4 head teachers in the Malawian side, and we're on to our 4th head teacher on this side. So there's been a kind of a slight, nobody's had the same journey in either side that we've had. And I was wondering what the one thing that you would advise me to sell to my current head teacher to get him to be more interested. I mean, I can see huge mileage in learning for sustainability, UNCRC, huge opportunities to hold discussions with our school it's in Lantipi. You probably passed through it on the way down to Blantyre. It's between Lilongwe and Dedza, just on the M1. So if you're ever passing, pop in and say hello. But, you know, I'm basically trying to sell all that is possible now, because our school in Malawi have got I visited this summer, and they have a large flat screen display, and they can do Zoom meetings. So my intention this year is to try and establish live discussions forums. But what would you say to a head teacher that would really kind of excite them to commit more to a partnership?
It's a good question. I think the first thing you need to do is read Emma's report, actually. I mean, I honestly do. I mean, I think there were things that came out of that report that we just didn't expect. I think that's true. I mean, I think it was absolutely, so if you're talking, if you're serious about kind of kids going out into the world and being active and a positive force for good, you've just got to read that report and you've just got to think that this could be our kids. I mean, I think there's no doubt about that in my mind. And that's the academic research that backs up what we'd all say anecdotally. You know, all of us know that taking kids to Malawi, something magic happens. It happens in terms of resilience. It happens in terms of, I mean, we've had kids who've been, I mean, although we're an independent school, we've got a broad spectrum of pupils here, and some of them, you'd be surprised at the academic ability sometimes, and I think you'd be surprised at the sort of levels of resilience. We've had kids whose academic performance has increased because they've been challenged when they're back in Malawi, but they've also seen other people meeting challenges head on and dealing with things in a way that you know they've things that they've not had to deal with. They've dealt with. You can see that they're dealing with them, and they're meeting them head on, and they just sit up and think about that. Honestly, I think that report, but also the idea that you know, we've had kids who were not great attenders at school, improving their attendance and improving their academic performance, having been to Malawi, in spite of them being out in the October half term, and that's because they've just had their eyes opened, you know, or the scales have fallen away from their eyes. But you know, they just see the difference. They just, and I think, so as I say, I mean, transformation. I think it's if we're really truly interested in delivering. If education is about moving people from one position to another position, this is a great place to do it, I think. I don't know what other people think, but that would be my take.
That's brilliant. My business manager just walked in there, so he's just heard that.
Honestly, if you want me to come down and help you present it, I'd be delighted to. I'd be delighted.
Well, I might well take you up on that. I'll just have to obviously open up a dialogue about it. But I mean, you know, I can see so many positives in your education. I mean, one of the head teachers in Lintipe, he told me that education is only taking place if it makes a difference in the home. That was one of the things I remember from Aaron. He's sadly deceased now, but that's one thing I remember from him. And he really made me think about what we're doing in schools. So,
yeah.
Thanks.
No.
Yeah. No,
Thanks for that, Jake. Thanks, Richard. Is anybody else? I could just add on to that, Richard. There were two of the youngsters on our first trip in 2016 changed their university courses when they came back. One of them she was going to do law anyway, but she chose to do international law. Another one went to the international relationship just on what they'd seen out in Malawi in that short time. And you're quite right, it does have a major effect, and it's even more important when they come back here. So Dennis, was that your hand up as well?
Yes, please, just a quick one. I understand it's all one-way traffic that I'm hearing, everyone going to Malawi. Has any schools got experience of bringing Malawians to Scotland? Even a head teacher or two, or senior members of the leadership teams, because I think that's the stage that we're at now to strengthen the partnership, is to try and bring some Malawians into Scotland.
I can speak a bit on that myself, Dennis, because we had visits from our first partnership. There was two members of staff came across to see. They came across for about a week. For the biggest problem is normally they don't have passports and whatever else, so there's a kind of funding issue on that side, Dennis. We spoke to another colleague out there, and they'd be talking about 120, 150 pounds to try and get everything together just to actually travel, let alone the actual travel itself. I see Emma's hand went up there as well.
Oh, hi. Hello, everyone. I'm Gift. Yeah. So I was just going to answer Dennis' question about like schools, you know, bringing Malawians to Scotland. I know that maybe the focus mostly has been on sort of like secondary or high schools, But like at Queen Margaret University, where I'm just finishing now, I would say that like is an example of what you were trying to ask, because not only me, not only have they been able to bring me to Scotland, where I did my undergraduate in public sociology, and now just finishing my master's in international management and leadership, but also before me, there was Sandra Ndale, who was here, and then as well, Abigail did come as well, and then she went back. So yeah, I was just gonna answer in terms of like what you were asking about. So I am a true reflection of that, as well as others who have been. So
thanks, Giv. I just wonder if there was any organisation sponsoring leaders from Malawi, teaching leaders from Malawi coming to Scotland. Do we know of any? There must be.
I've only been the post, maybe Stuart or Chad might be better answering that one on our behalf, Dennis.
Okay.
I mean, I was part of a British Council project to connecting classrooms a while back, and initially we were going to have 2 members coming for each school across, but then COVID put the kibosh on that, and the funding was withdrawn for the travel aspect was withdrawn. We budgeted for paying for their passports, paying for visas. It wasn't just the flights. So I don't know if Stuart or Chad might be able to say if there's a group that might be facilitate that.
I'm aware of a couple schools who have had some of the Malawi partners come over, a mixture of staff and a couple students with them. Obviously, I only joined a year ago and it's post-COVID. So I know in the past year, there's been one school that's had, I think, a small delegation of the Malawi colleagues come over. It's by far not the norm, and hopefully it can increase in the future. But
Pennycook High School will have as well, I think, in the past, and I think through the British Council as well. The SNP had always encouraged with the British Council reciprocal visits rather than one-way traffic, as you put it, Dennis.
Thank you.
Connecting classrooms that you mentioned, Mitch, has ceased, as you know.
I'll look up British Council. Thanks all. Thank you.
No, thanks, Dennis. Okay, right. Thanks for that, Richard. Right, thanks for actually contributing to that one. I'm now going to pass on to our third presentation. I'm going to welcome Pan Lundberg, who is the Equity Coordinator and Chair of the Armadale Academy Malawi Committee. Armadale Academy in West Lothian is probably our most recent addition, okay, as a partnership school. And I know that Lindsay's there, who's actually another member. Thank you, Lindsay. She's another member of the Malawian Committee at Armadale. So, Lindsay, over to yourselves.
Okay, thank you, Mitch. Thank you very much. I'm just going to share my presentation. Hopefully you can see that okay, folks. I think it might just be loading. There we go. So thank you very much for allowing us to be here this afternoon. It's lovely to hear so many of you speaking. Today, myself and Lindsay would like to chat to you about our partnership working with Kaya Primary School. Armadale Academy has previously worked in partnership with schools in Norway and China, and we offered young people the opportunity to come and study here in Armadale Academy from Norway. Unfortunately, COVID has prevented a lot of those ties continuing. However, we are very excited about our new partnership with Kaya. So to give you a little bit of insight to our journey so far, we had a new head teacher join Armadale in March, Nicola Barker Harrison, and Nicola was formerly at Beath with Mitch and Douglas. And Nicola, when she came in, shared her experiences on when she first visited Malawi and she spoke so intently about how it actually changed her life in so many different ways. So when we had the opportunity to have a chat with Nicola, she spoke about how her school had worked in partnership, and they looked at so many different things that both could gain from the experience. So it ranged from repairs to school buildings, providing resources such as books, paper and chalk, sanitation products. And also in addition, they paid for 2 Malawian teachers to visit Scotland and back in 2014, and then the first trip to Malawi with 6 staff and 17 learners, and it continued right up until 2020. And obviously there is a further visit being planned with Beef, as Mitch spoke about earlier. I think it was engaging with Nicola and hearing her perspectives about her visit to Malawi, and obviously we had Mitch come to visit Armadale as well, because what Nicola wanted was not just for her experiences to be given to the staff, but to have the opportunity to hear from someone else as well. And it was quite clear that both Mitch and Nicola's objectives in regarding Beef's partnership with Malawi, the school had unique approaches on how they wanted to tackle their goals, and it really allowed them to broaden their outlook when considering different issues. So I suppose, you know, why Armadale Academy and why Kaya Primary School? So of course we'd heard from Nicola about her experiences, and we were eager to learn more, and she really had the staff gripped. And we wanted to hear from Chad and Douglas from the Scotland-Malawi partnership, and they were really happy to come and visit and share their experiences as well. So they visited us on Friday the 16th of June, and they shared their experiences of how they set up a partnership as well and what would be involved. Obviously Douglas started the Beef Malawi partnership, so was very experienced in this area. Chad also explained to us that he was a teacher in Malawi and had lived in Malawi with his family, and obviously he brought his wealth of knowledge to present to us on that day. We honestly feel that working together in a coordinated and effective way for the benefit of both schools, that's what we really want to aim for. And we'll do this by harnessing experience, expertise and enthusiasm across our school, with ideas, activities and information that can be shared between our staff, our pupils and our community. But we also want to share those same experiences with our colleagues in Malawi. We want our partnership with Kaya to be built on connections and collaboration, and it's on a multi-sectoral basis between our two small nations, and we really do want it to be transformational for both. So I suppose what we, you know, why have a school partnership? Well, you know, through our partnership, we're really hoping that our communities will improve our awareness of global issues, increase the understanding of different cultures and traditions, share some of our educational experiences and develop those personal and professional relationships. That's really important to the Armadale community, and to develop those with Kaya, we feel it will be something very, very special. And obviously an ongoing benefit is the potential to develop our curricular links and to enhance the learning and teaching in both schools, and to make sure that the outcomes for all our learners is a positive experience in both schools. And we really do feel that already at this early stage, our partnership is built on core values of mutual understanding, trust, and to have equity of access to education as a central consideration. You know, we really do want to address those global sustainable goals, so quality of education, gender equality, reduce inequalities, and partnership for goals. So what did we consider next? Well, we've set up our committee and we've agreed our office bearers. We are meeting regularly, and we've involved our students even at an early stage. So we have given presentations to all our young people, and we are in the midst of setting up our pupil focus group. And we done, as you can see, a little picture, which is on the right hand side. That is our committee. But what we also done is we all said a little piece and gave a video with a bit of information about all of us and what we want to gain from this partnership. And it was really, really encouraging, because Kaya Primary School colleagues also done something similar and sent it to us. So one of the things that we are looking to do is possibly link with Beath on the next trip. That is something that we are very, very excited about and going forward. But one of the things that I think that has really gave us such warm hearts, to be honest, was hearing from Ian very much, and Chad and Douglas, and then obviously Nicola. It really has made us think that we really want to move forward with this partnership. And already at an early stage, it's just something that somebody had already mentioned. We've set up a WhatsApp group, and we're sending one another WhatsApp, and it is fantastic. And just even little pictures about certain things that are happening within our day, or what we've seen. It really is.
For that myself. I kind of thought that during the summer it might be quite nice for them if they get the pictures, and they're actually quite quick with the WhatsApp to put about having, like the nicer bits that we've got round about our area, and kind of showing them like the different parts of there, and they've actually really quite enjoyed that. We kind of get messages back, oh, that's great, or it looks amazing, and they get quite excited to see like what our life's like as well over here.
I think what's nice as well is just somebody to ask how your day's been. It's, even something as simple as that, it's lovely. But I think, when Mitch visited us in Armadale, he stressed to us that, the partnership that we're hoping to have has got to be built upon ambition of improving the educational experiences of all learners in both schools. And it's about that underpinning of our values of mutual understanding. And for our young people and for those of our partner school, we really want to provide a real life experience and to build those friendships across the continents, and to cultivate attitudes, knowledge and compassion. As I say, when Ian and Douglas came to chat with us in Armadale, they spoke about how the Beath community really developed a greater understanding of another culture, and a desire to affect change in both countries, and a willingness to support each other. And I suppose if we can do that, certainly in Armadale, with our partner in Kaya, we know that we will have made a difference, certainly a difference. So Nicola took us through some pictures of young people from Beath and staff from Beath, and the experiences that they had on their visit. And I suppose as an Armadale community, we have a desire to understand another culture, a desire to affect change in both countries, and a willingness to support others in the same roles that's similar to ourselves. And we're on our way, is what I would say. We're on our way. We have a regular note on our advertiser, and we have a pupil advertiser in the morning, which the children will see. And we ran a dress down day, but what we did do is we spoke about our partnership and what we wanted to achieve from our partnership. We are going to be holding assemblies as well, and it was a fantastic effort from our young people. They raised £200. And that was used to help the families in Malawi that was affected by the floods. Just before the summer term, we had a bake-off which involved it was a staff bake-off, so it was quite a lot of competition there. To be honest, it was good fun, and it was to see whose piece of bacon would go first amongst our young people. But as I say, it's been really great so far. Our staff are motivated, they're determined, which is inspiring, to be quite honest with you. And already we've struck up that partnership using our WhatsApp, which is a great tool. And the simple meet and greet was nice to actually see the people that you're going to be working with to move and transform education in both schools.
As a school, we find it really, really important because Armadale can be quite a deprived area, and although it's not the same level of poverty that Malawi has, we do have children who sort of have that poverty, that maybe they've not got the same trainers as everybody else and things, and we actually want to show them that there are differences, but really that there are similarities. Like every children kind of wants to be able to either play football or do sports or have like art, like they all have that kind of connection, and it's actually about showing them that there's more than just Armadale, and that there's more out the world, and actually to open their minds up about how the other people live, and how for the Malawians to see that how we live.
So I suppose just to end, folks, I suppose what's next for us in our journey, and we realise that as a stepping stone. We are raising and discussing at our departmental meetings how subjects could include some Malawi related content in their subjects. We're also looking at a potential research project in social subjects, with the best to be presented at assemblies and shared electronically, and obviously prizes for the best projects. We are already linking our My Skills, My World to the UNCRC. We're looking at potential outdoor learning links too. We are also looking at the scope for filming experiments in science, using a Malawi Scotland Day, and link it to both schools, so to have 2 projects, and to try and raise some of the issues in our community. We have set up a pupil focus group, and we are linking with our own primary schools to try and get their involvement. We're looking at fundraising events to take part in our October break. We've arranged an Armadale talent show as well, where proceeds from the talent show will go to our Link Primary School, Kaya. We're also looking at our S6 prom fashion show, and we're going to do a joint burn supper, but we are going to look at some of the delicacies of Malawi and try and include them in our ceilidh. And then again, as some of our fundraising events, we're looking at our simple party, bingo night, our quiz, or our Christmas high tea. So we feel we've started this journey. We're very, very excited, indeed, maybe a bit too excited, but we're very, very excited at what lies ahead, and to continue those partnerships and to come together. But as I say, our young people they're excited, they want to learn more, they want to be involved more, which is fantastic, and already raising the awareness in the community. Our community have donated football strips to send across to Kaya, and we are in the proceeds of that and getting that across. So yeah, so already we've made those links, and the journey is exciting, and we're very much looking forward to that. So I think that's me, Mitch. If anybody has any questions at all.
Thanks, Pam. Thanks, Lindsay, for that. Yeah, you certainly have been busy since I popped in June. I'll give you that. You've certainly been very busy. A lot of things I recognise myself, but a lot of other new ideas there that I'd never considered. So very well done. Is there anybody with just aware that we're already a wee bit over time, and we're already got a presenter to come as well. Has anybody got any questions for Pam or Lindsay? Looks like you're getting off scot-free here, Pam.
Lovely, lovely. As I say, you know, we're at a very early stage, Mitch. You know that yourself, but it's one that we are loving so far. We're loving the journey that we're on, and working with our colleagues at an early stage from Kaya, and we're excited. I think you can tell that we're very much excited about making a difference to both schools in a big way.
Oh, that's great, Pam. I appreciate that. Right, we've now got, I think, two coming there. Heather, would you have your hand up first? Then I saw Richard's hand coming in.
I think I did actually, Mitch. I may have missed something, but it seems to me wonderful to have a secondary school linking to a primary school. And I wonder whether there are opportunities that have already been taken up by others or are in your list in Armadale, Lindsay, to find ways of being able to mentor staff to help with the curriculum development at the end of primary school, or the tutoring of particular learners who are at the end of their primary school, because so often people want to find ways of helping but can't do it in the same time frame, or certainly wouldn't be able to go out to Malawi, but might well want to be associated. And I just think it's a lovely potential combination at that critical stage when kids, especially the girls, are dropping out of school.
Yes, you know, Heather, it's when we discussed it at our with obviously our primaries, they're very excited about potentially having some involvement as well. And we're quite fortunate that we have such a close relationship with our cluster colleagues. So it's certainly something that we're going to look forward and you know, and try and see if we can bring our primary colleagues on board, as you rightly say, to work together to make that difference.
Thanks, Pam. Thanks for that question, Heather. Richard, is your hand still up?
Yeah, Pam, thank you. I thought that was brilliant. One of the things I took from it, though, was it's interesting, and this reflects our experience as well, how readily the community, the school community, the wider school community are kind of keen to get involved. And I think that's been really powerful. And it's really interesting that you said, you know, they were very, you know, quick to collect strips or what, you know, there's a kind of there's an aspiration there, isn't there, in the community? I think that's really, and that's really powerful thing, I think, around the school.
I think when we explained the journey that we wanted to take, the two teams were very quick to get on board, and have fabulously said that you know, if we want any further help and support, they'd be happy to you know, continue that relationship with Armadale and Kaya and going forward. So again, that's very encouraging, because we certainly don't just see this as a short term. We don't see it short term, and it's very good to see that already partnerships in the community don't see it as being short term either.
Great support from our community as well, because we have such links with the parents and things. Like, they are really quite excited about the thought of the school having something to focus on that is primary learners as well.
And again, when we're talking about community events that we want to run, we very much want to have that Malawi aspect within those community events, again, to broaden everybody's understanding and to develop experiences for everyone.
Oh, thanks, Pam. Do we have any more questions on this? Because we're conscious we still have Natalie to come in for this. Okay, Pam, Lindsay, thanks very much for that. Okay, contribution very much appreciated. 2013 We actually saw the 150th anniversary of the death of David Livingstone. Okay, a man who's inextricably linked with both Malawi and Scotland. And our final presenter this afternoon, Natalie Lorimer, is the Youth Engagement Officer at the David Livingstone Birthplace and Museum, and she's going to make us aware of some new resources for us. Over to you, Natalie.
Thank you very much, Mitch. Let me just pull up my slides. Take a wee second. There we are. We all seeing those okay, yeah? Yep. Is that all right? Yeah? Good. Okay.
I'm not sure there, Natalie.
Oh, you're not seeing it? No. I thought I saw nods. Oh dear. Anything?
I've just got a circle.
Oh.
I can see it, Natalie.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, other people can see it's maybe just me, Natalie.
Okay, right, good.
It's okay on this side. It's just that poor Wi-Fi in the SNP office. You're all right.
Right, good. No worries. Right. Thank you very much for having me along today, and to Mitch and the SNP team as always, for having such a good link with the museum. I wanted to tell everyone a wee bit more about Livingstone and about the museum, and about our current learning and engagement programme that might be of interest to yourselves and the young people that you work with. So, I can imagine that many of you here today will already be very familiar with David Livingstone and the significance of his legacy in strengthening the historic bonds between Scotland and Malawi. However, for anybody who isn't as familiar, I thought I'd give you a brief crash course. So, Livingstone's history was complex and he wore many different hats. He's probably best remembered for his work as a missionary, as a doctor, a campaigner and an explorer. And he was also a bit of a celebrity figure as well. So born to mill worker parents in Blantyre, Scotland in 1813, Livingstone travelled to southern Africa as a Christian missionary shortly after obtaining his medical degree. And he set out on 3 central expeditions across his lifetime: the Trans-Africa expedition, the Zambezi expedition and the Nile expedition. His interest in the continent and its people, I think, often served him better than his skills as a missionary, as we now know that Livingstone only managed to convert a handful of people to Christianity, who then managed to do much better conversion work themselves. So his best-selling account of his explorations, the book Missionary Travels, won him celebrity status in Victorian Britain. And he used this powerful position that he had to draw attention to the horrors of the East African slave trade. And at the time, British merchants were still profiting from that. However, in his later years, Livingstone often relied on the traders of enslaved people for help and supplies. And following his death, his calls to diversify economies and develop new British trade routes across southern Africa using more natural kind of resources and using the land actually kind of made way and kind of were used to justify problematic exploits of the British Empire in the 19th century. So Livingstone's life has a lot to tell us, I think, about our own times, about what it means to be a bit of a flawed campaigner while working towards significant positive change. I think it speaks to us about celebrity and status and the power and the difficulties that brings. And his history is really interesting as it sits at a turning point in history, kind of between this inhumanity of the international slave trade and the brutality of the British Empire and the kind of scramble for Africa that happened later. So we're living through our own historical era, global inequality and the climate crisis being on everybody's minds. And I think in the face of it all, what we try to do as a museum is to showcase kind of multiple sides of Livingstone's life and highlight the voices of African individuals and communities who have been historically overlooked, and encourage our visitors to make up their own minds about how we view Livingstone and how we view his legacy today. So the museum itself is actually housed within the tenement style building where Livingstone was born in 1813, as Mitch said, 150 years ago this year, which is really exciting. And this is where he lived with his family until he was accepted into university. So we're a Category A listed building that was once home to the Blantyre Cotton Works. which was a large industrial textiles mill where Livingston and his family were employed. He was employed from the age of 10 as a piecer, so climbing under the spinning machines in the factory to pick up loose threads of cotton. We first opened as a museum in 1929. That'll be another big centenary on the horizon in a wee while, which probably should start planning now, the way things go these days. But our trust, the Scottish Memorial to David Livingstone Trust, we've cared for the building, our surrounding parkland, and our collection of 4,000 objects related to Livingstone, his associates, and the Southern African communities that he visited. And currently, we're the only independent museum in Scotland that is dedicated to preserving the legacy of Livingstone and re-examining his work and the kind of complex and painful realities of slavery and colonialism and 19th century European attitudes towards African people and community groups. So for us, it puts us in a really unique position to be central to discussions around Scotland's role in slavery and colonisation, and how this is represented in both the way we interpret David Livingstone's story and the objects that we hold as a museum. So we were closed for 5 years in 2016, and we reopened in summer 2021. And that was to allow us to go through a really transformative refurbishment. So our site has now been preserved for future generations and to better present the Livingstone story to new audiences. We've been able to re-examine the histories, reinterpret our exhibition spaces, display more objects from the collection than ever before, and we've created a really ambitious activity plan to engage the public and inspire social justice and personal achievement, and make sure that our visitors are aware of the heritage value of what a historic site we're lucky to care for. As I'm sure most of you here are educators, are people generally invested in the education of young people. I'm really pleased to see some familiar faces, some of our friends from Dunblane and off the radar here today as well, which is really good. So there's people on this call that I know have been out to visit us and have seen what our learning programme can do. But I thought I'd give you a little kind of flavour of our current learning offer that some of your schools or your young people would want to come and experience. So we have a school workshop programme that makes up our largest formal learning offer, and we have something for all ages. We have Curious Cubs, which is for our primary 1 to 3 audience, so that introduces pupils to life in a Victorian cotton mill, and we then follow Livingstone on his journey to Southern Africa. So we feature storytelling, object exploration, and a craft activity. We have our Industrial Revolution workshop for primary 4 to 7, and that uses the museum collection to introduce the history of industrial revolution in Britain. So we examine how new technologies and innovations still affect the world we live in today, and where Livingstone fits into that really important moment in history. And then for our secondary schools, we have Agents of Empire. So here we start to really critically examine the histories behind British colonial exploits and missionary work. And kind of examine David Livingstone's wider legacy. So that involves object handling, a scavenger hunt, and a self-led tour of the museum. I forgot to mention, we also we're very, very lucky to have a partnership with Historic Environment Scotland. So they offer a travel subsidy for all schools in Scotland, which covers up to 75%, so around £250 of transport costs to our museum. So I have more information about this on our website, and if anybody was interested in coming out on a trip, that's something that we can help you with the application towards. Yes. But one of the other reasons that I'm here to speak to you today is about another resource that we've just developed, our newest resource, and one as a museum that we're exceptionally proud of. So we have recently worked with partners at the West of Scotland Development Education Centre, WASDEC. You might be familiar, if anybody's kind of more East Coast Edinburgh based, they have ScotDec that they look after, who were at the schools festival as well. So WASDEC, the West Coast branch, have helped us create this resource, Learning from Livingstone. So Learning from Livingstone is an anti-racist learning resource for educators and pupils across Scotland. We made this resource because we know that discussing racism can be challenging, and it's a journey for everyone throughout their life and their career. And we found that discussing this issue in a supportive and open environment can promote greater understanding. and it's important that classrooms are included in this. So the resources use David Livingstone's story as to explore how the past has informed our present and our future. So we're using the school workshops in the museum collection to provide new activities that take an anti-racist approach to the history of Livingstone. Topics within the resource include unpicking bias within historic and contemporary media, the importance of Indigenous knowledge on expeditions through Southern and Central Africa, and really centering African and marginalised voices in telling our shared history. And it's really important, and we always want to emphasise that as an educator using this resource, you do not have to be an expert in Livingstone or on anti-racist education practice. We want educators to access this resource as a springboard for larger conversations and learning for the future. It's been designed with a curriculum for excellence in Scotland in mind, and for the professional development of educators. We feel that this resource in particular, but any of our school workshop programme would be useful for a teacher or pupils who are preparing to make that journey out to Malawi, and to give your kind of group a deeper understanding of the historic context between the Scotland-Malawi link and how that's informed our shared histories over time. But again, if you've just struck up a school partnership and you're laying the groundwork within school, I think it's also worthwhile to look into. We're due to launch the resource formally within the next month on our website, and we'll be hosting an additional CPD workshop with WASDEC. We've ran one before that was really, really successful, and got a lot of Malawian teachers involved actually in developing the resource with us and making their own notes on it, which was great. But we're going to run another one again with the launch and get more feedback. So if you're interested in learning more about that and how it can maybe benefit your young people, you can take a note of my email. I'll pop it on the next slide and in the chat, and we'd be happy to chat further. Same again if you're interested in visiting us anytime at all with any of your young people. So thanks again for having me here, and these are all my contact details if anybody's interested, and I'm happy to take any questions just now as well.
Thanks very much for that, Natalie. Just before I pass to Pam and Lindsay there, having visited the David Livingstone Birthplace Museum in my first week in the job, I can thoroughly recommend it as a place to visit. I'm a museum lover, and I found it very interesting and very entertaining. Pam, Lindsay, hand went up.
I think we'll definitely be interested, Natalie, because I think it would be a tremendous experience for our focus group of the young people that we've already formed, to actually visit and again, as you rightly say, gain a further experience to help their understanding of the journey that lies ahead for us. So yeah, I'll certainly be in contact.
It's like an exciting thing to put into your social sometimes because they do slave trade as well.
So thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, we'd love to have you. No worries at all.
Thanks, Pam. Thanks for that, Natalie. Any other comments? No. Okay. Well, my last act really is to call on Stella, who's going to close the meeting with a few more comments. So Stella, over to yourself. Stella, are you there? Oh, you are. Okay. Stella, are you there? Right, folks, it would appear we've either Stella some trouble connecting or there's some other issue. We've got her. Hello, Stella.
Hi, Mitch. I think Stella is having a little bit of a network problem over here. So, can you hear me quite all right?
Yes, Ruth, can you hear you?
Great. So I was just say a little bit of some of the messages that we had discussed with Stella earlier. I think, firstly, it's so great to see everybody else from that side. So wonderful to hear from Richard, because I went down to MCV just recently, a few months back, to deliver the plaques that they won. So it's good to hear from their partner side this time around. So going forth, in the meantime, we're going to continue to offer sustainability support to the schools, especially in the South. We're planning for a training to do an inclusive education for special needs children in primary head teachers. That way, we're also going to take an opportunity to bring head teachers together just to hear what they're doing in their school partnerships, while we're continuing to following up on the work plans that they set up earlier this year. Thank you, Mitch.
Giacomo, Ruth, Giacomo. Folks, can I thank everyone for attending this evening. It's been a very illuminating and very entertaining